Elijah Gray had always been a creature of routine. Every morning, he woke up at exactly 7:03 a.m. Not 7, not 7:05, but always 7:03. He made himself a single cup of strong black coffee, toasted one slice of rye bread, and listened to the local weather forecast on his dusty old wood-paneled radio. He liked things quiet, predictable, safe. But on a seemingly normal Tuesday morning, everything changed. The radio crackled to life as usual, but instead of the chipper voice of the weatherman, Elijah heard something different, something strange. A voice whispered from the speaker, low and cold, as if it wasn't meant to be heard. Time does not forget. Time reclaims what you owe. Elijah stared at the radio. The whispering faded into static, and then the usual weather forecast resumed, cheerful and normal. Highs in the 70s, light breeze, no mention of haunting riddles about time. He turned the radio off, convinced it was just a glitch. But the rest of the day felt wrong. The shadows in his apartment stretched just a little too long. The hum of the refrigerator seemed off-key. The ticking of the kitchen clock was slower. People on the street looked at him oddly, like they were trying to remember something they couldn't quite place. Later that afternoon, his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Wilkins, stopped him in the hallway. She was in her usual pink bathrobe, leaning heavily on her cane, but her eyes looked sharper than usual. "You," she said, pointing a trembling finger at him. "You've changed." "What do you mean?" Elijah asked, surprised. "You died 10 years ago," she said. "I remember the funeral. I cried." She stared at him another moment, then walked away without another word. Elijah stood frozen in the hallway. He didn't have a response. He didn't even know what she meant. That night, he dreamt of a small white room with no windows and one black chair. A metronome ticked steadily on a shelf, each beat louder than the last. In the mirror on the wall, he saw a version of himself, much younger, face pale, mouth open in a silent scream, hands bound behind the chair. He woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. His palms hurt. When he turned on the light, he saw bruises forming around each wrist. Perfect circles, as if something had tied him up, as if he had struggled. But he had no memory of anything except the dream. He tried to call his doctor, Dr. Halverson, the next morning, needing someone to talk to. The receptionist picked up. "Dr. Halverson?" she repeated. "We have no one by that name." "What are you talking about? I've seen him for 10 years. "There's no record of you ever being a patient here, sir." Elijah hung up. He went to his calendar to double-check. There were no appointments, no prescriptions in his bathroom, no notes in his handwriting. It was like that part of his life had never existed. Over the next few days, reality continued to unravel. Photos on his walls began to blur. In one of them, where he clearly remembered standing beside his sister at her wedding, his face was gone. Just a blank smear. His emails began disappearing. His phone refused to save numbers. And then the dreams got worse. In them, he was always strapped to that black chair, always watching his younger self in the mirror. One night, he heard footsteps echoing behind him. The metronome stopped ticking. A voice, soft but firm, spoke from the darkness. "You're not supposed to be here." Elijah tried to scream, but no sound came out. He woke up with blood on his pillow. His nose had bled in the night. Or at least, he hoped it was just his nose. On Sunday, his doorman didn't recognize him. "New tenant?" the man asked. Elijah had lived there for 15 years. When he insisted, the doorman squinted and said, "You must be mistaken. This apartment's been empty since the last guy, Elijah Gray, died in 2015. Elijah left and never went back. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. The name didn't even sound real anymore. He checked online for obituaries. He found one. Elijah Grant Gray, age 39, died unexpectedly on March 18, 2015. No known family, no funeral held. The photo attached looked just like him. It was him. Same eyes, same awkward smile. He slammed the laptop shut. That night, he sat on the edge of his bed, staring into the darkness. "Am I dead?" he whispered aloud. There was no answer. But a moment later, the metronome from his dreams began ticking. From somewhere in the house. He followed the sound. It led him to the closet. Inside, he found a small wooden box he didn't remember owning. When he opened it, there was nothing inside but a pocket watch, ticking backward. He touched it, and everything shifted. He was no longer in his apartment. He was in the white room. The black chair was in the center. The metronome clicked on the shelf, and in the mirror on the wall, he saw himself again, but now older, pale, terrified. This time, He wasn't the observer. He was the one strapped in. You broke the cycle, a voice said behind him. He tried to turn but couldn't move. You were meant to die in 2015, but you refused. You held on. The mirror flickered, showing flashes of a hospital room, a flatline, a doctor calling time of death, a jolt. Elijah gasped. The memories came back. He had died, but something inside him refused to let go. A heartbeat restarted. A breath returned. He had clawed his way back into a body that no longer belonged to him, a life he wasn't meant to have. Time reclaims what you owe, the voice repeated. You can't cheat the end forever. The metronome stopped ticking. The mirror went black. Elijah felt himself fade, not with pain, but with a strange relief, like letting go of a breath he'd been holding for 10 years. When he woke again, the room was still and silent. He was in a hospital bed. An unfamiliar nurse walked in, startled. "Sir, you're awake." He tried to speak, but couldn't. She checked the monitor. "You were in a coma," she said slowly. 10 years. We didn't think you'd come back." He blinked. Slowly. She smiled. "It's a miracle," she whispered. But as she turned to call the doctor, he saw the clock on the wall. The second hand was ticking backward, and he understood. He hadn't returned. Not really. He had never left. And this, whatever this was just the final loop. Time, as always, was simply reclaiming what it was owed.